My computer just gave me a very loud reminder. Let me make sure that the do not disturb is on. Do not disturb is on. Okay. Maybe the computer didn't get the memo. Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for January 8th. January 8th is the 8th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 357 days remaining to the end of the year. 358 if it happens to be a leap year. We have a lot of folks on the live today. Thanks everybody for coming. There we go. All righty. January 8th is Typing Day. I've talked a bit about Typing Day before, and I've put a link in the description about it to a hashtag shorts that I did about it. So let's see. Today's word is hypochondriac. Hypochondriac can be a noun or an adjective. If you've heard this word before, you may have an idea about what it means, but there's another meaning for hypochondriac that I didn't know about before I looked it up for this report, because we do the deep dives on these words. So here we go. As an adjective, hypochondriac's original definition has to do with anatomy. In this case, it means having to do with the abdominal region. This derives from a combination of the Greek words parts hypo, which means under, beneath, down, or less than normal, and chondros, which means grain, gristle, or cartilage. So under the cartilage is likely how the anatomical definition of hypochondriac came about. In terms of anatomy, hypochondriac has to do with that abdominal region of the body that contains the organs of the upper abdomen behind the ribs, like the liver and the gallbladder. So that's the anatomical meaning of hypochondriac. Interestingly, the liver and gallbladder were thought to be the seat of melancholy, which probably has something to do with the definition of hypochondriac that most of us would think about. A noun that means someone who is often or always worried about their own health, or thinks they're sick, or when maybe they aren't really quite. Such a person might experience real or imagined symptoms to reinforce, at least to themselves, that they are ill. An example of this is someone who every time they read about some new or new to them disease, they think they have it. Been there, done that. First known use of the word hypochondriac in terms of anatomy was in 1599. First known use of hypochondriac as a description of a person who dwells on their real or imagined illness was in, that's the wrong year because it was later than that. Well, it was after that. I made a typo here and said 1539, but it wasn't a 5. So, anyway, hypochondriac. Today's word hypochondriac was requested by YouTube viewer Rob KY8460. I'm going to guess that Rob may live in Kentucky or be from Kentucky. Thanks, Rob, for suggesting this word. And remember, if you have a word you'd like us to examine in this Word of the Day segment, drop it in the comments. We'll take a look at it. Thanks. I need to do a little bit more work on these so that the emojis will show better. Y'all getting a little snow up there in New York? My daughter lives in Cooperstown. Alrighty, let's move on to our first item. There we go. And with that, on January 8th, 1835, for the first and only time, the United States national debt reached zero. This was a pet project of President Andrew Jackson. He was a person who believed that carrying debt was not a good thing to do, so he worked real hard to reduce the United States debt and actually did get it down to zero. Unfortunately, like so many people to this day, it seems the country didn't quite know how to operate without being in debt, and a bunch of problems followed by the Panic of 1837, a bank run, a subsequent depression that tanked the U.S. economy and forced the U.S. federal government to begin borrowing again. And of course, the U.S. has been indebted ever since. The debt skyrocketed during Civil War and was nearly paid off by the early 20th century, only to balloon again with the onset of World War I. Numerous presidents, politicians, and citizens have decried the national debt. Citizens have demanded and politicians promised to do away with it, conservatives, libertarians frequently echoing Jackson's sentiments. The U.S. national debt is over $34 trillion now, a figure most of us can't even imagine or relate to. I know I sure can't. There are organizations out there that give examples and comparisons relative to the size of U.S. debt and what it would take to bring it down. Unfortunately, it is unlikely that the events of 1835 will be repeated in the foreseeable future, if ever. Pardon me. Yeah, they've got some weather up in the Northeast. American singer, guitarist, and actor Elvis Presley was born on January 8, 1935. I talk quite a bit more about him in other episodes, and I've included a link to one of those in the description. Sadly, he passed away well before anyone would have liked, at the age of 42. On January 8, 1940, be nice if I could remember to put the words up there for you. On January 8, 1940, Mussolini questioned Hitler's plans. A message from Benito Mussolini was forwarded to Adolf Hitler in which he cautioned the Führer against waging war against Britain. He wondered if it was really necessary to risk everything, including the regime, and to sacrifice the flower of German generations. Mussolini had an ulterior motive. At the time, Italy was not prepared to join the effort, and he feared that Germany would get all the glory and overshadow the dictator of Italy. Germany had already taken the Sudetenland and Poland by this time, and if Hitler took France and then pushed Britain into neutrality or worse, defeated it in battle, Germany would rule Europe. Mussolini had assumed the reins of power in Italy long before Hitler had taken over in Germany, and in so doing, Mussolini boasted of refashioning a new Roman Empire out of an Italy that was still economically backward and militarily weak. He did not want to be outdone by this upstart Hitler. All right. There are several episodes that I've done for January 8th over the last few years. We've talked about all the things we talked about today and some other things in some of those episodes, and I have included a link to one of those in the description. And today's song, if Elvis Presley were still alive, he would be turning 89 today. That said, we need to talk about his music a little bit. Elvis Presley released over 100 albums during his recording career. 115 posthumous album compilations and 11 remix albums have been released beside his original over 100. He released 117 singles over the course of his career, and 24 more were released posthumously. With numbers like that and a recording career that began as long ago as 1954, You can imagine how difficult it was to come up with one Elvis Presley song to talk about today. And when I saw his name come up in today's list of events, what popped into my head was teddy bear. Just want to be your teddy bear. He does it a lot better. Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear was written by Cal Mann and Bernie Lowe. Elvis recorded the song in 1957. He sings it in his second motion picture called Loving You, and it appears on the soundtrack for that movie. The Billboard Hot 100 charting system hadn't quite been developed yet in 1957. It was 1958 before the Billboard Hot 100 came into effect, but by whatever method it was that they used to track the popularity of music in 1957, Teddy Bear hit number 1 and held that spot for 7 weeks. Furthermore, it was the third of 4 number 1 hits by Elvis Presley in 1957. Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear has been covered by a good many artists since then, including Pat Boone, Glenn Campbell, Paul McCartney and Wings, and even ZZ Top. Just to name a few. Fun, lighthearted, Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear by Elvis Presley. Link in the description. Alrighty. And I think we can close that now. Thanks everybody for coming to the live today. This is so exciting. I've got a few errands to run today, and hopefully I can get tomorrow's edited. If not, we'll be back live again. One way or another, there'll be an episode tomorrow. So thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.